Are you interested in the new BMW M4 competition and as well as the BMW M3? Well, we have everything for you here. Let's go. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so far, and thank you so much for all long-term subscribers. Here in the front of the new BMW M4 Coupe, you can see they got this huge new double kidney right here, which also goes way wide in the vertical way. We've seen it with the all-new BMW 4 Series in general. You can also tune into that episode, but here for the M4 you can see there is no frame around, and they did that to give most air intake possible, actually, the maximum air intake possible. But you can see as a design element, we have the horizontal fins in here, whereas, for example, the normal 4 Series gets a, more typical grille style on the inside. And now, well, this is not just another color for an M4, this is the M3. So, and you might remember the normal 3 Series, if you compare it to the 4 Series, there's the big differentiation with that front grille. But here, M3 and M4, they do receive the very same front grille and also the very same whole front wagon. Everything is the same up till the A-pillar. So, yeah, interesting decision, definitely. What do you think about it? So, from which side will I enter the stage? Today, it's the rear. The length here is 4 meters 80 or 189 inches. And the interesting thing is both the same for the M4 and for the M3. They both share the same wheelbase. It's just with the base model, the spoiler overhangs are different, but here the spoiler overhangs are pretty much the same then. Yeah, and also they share the same suspension, and it's just that one, it's an adaptive M suspension, so they try to a little bit more master the compromise between sportiness and comfort with that. Side profile now of the 3 Series M, the M3, and here I think you can see even a little bit better that the wheel arches are a little bit wider. So with the 4 Series the shoulders look strong anyway, but when you compare a base 3 Series to the M3, we can even see a bigger difference here in the wheel arches. Also, for example, if you look from the upside to the downside. So really very strong, of course, to cover these wider wheels. In the rear, both models actually get the same diffuser here in the lower part and also these exhaust, 4 pipes, and it will always be this sports exhaust. So they also wanted to simplify the product portfolio here, and I think it's also a good decision and not to make like the real sports exhaust just optional and so on and so on. And now to the rear of the M3. Again, both cars competition each. Here you can see the tail lamps. They are more simple, let's say, in the 3 Series here, whereas they are more playful in the M4 in general for the 4 Series. The rear spoiler lip is a little bit larger right here due to the different body form. So what do we have under the hood is a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder bi-turbo. And you might remember in the M Performance model, the 340i, it has 380 horsepower. Here, 2 horsepower specs, either 480 horsepower for, let's say, the base M model, or then 510 horsepower for the competition model. M steering wheel with contour stitches on the inside, then these manual M buttons here, M1, M2, you can program them to your liking for all the driving dynamics settings. Then this is here a deco element also with carbon fiber. You can actually then go for that, and you can see here the color split, soft touch dashboard in the top, optional head-up display, blue then in the lower part. always comes here with the digital instruments, 12.3 inch on the left, 10.25 inch on the right. Here you can see that's not the proper car. Again, prototype model here, so that's also nothing special that there's not the proper car, but it will of course be the M4 or M3 then in the visualization later. Then these special bucket seats. This is an option. In the M3 we have the standard seats for the M models, and here in the M4 this is the optional bucket seat, so you have even more, it's a very slim seat and it's a carbon fiber seat. Yeah, some weight savings, but that's not the real thing. Here you can see that's carbon fiber on the back part. There we go. And then these gaps. This will also be covered with another structure, by the way, also a prototype stage here at the moment. So we give you all the information. And here we do have some Alcantara share to have a better grip on the racetrack. But sadly, this seat, so both base and the standard seat, both the standard and the optional seat, they are all covered with animal skin, and that does not make any sense, neither for the racetrack nor for other sporty driving. Ask any racing driver on this planet and they'll tell you that animal skin leather is the worst material for sporty driving. You sweat on it on summer, it's cool in winter, and of course on the racetrack you slide on it. Well, here in the bucket seat, you at least have then, the side support and lower and the upper part, and this one really keeps you tight. However, you will sweat more on the racetrack, and it's also, you slide a little bit like, in this, micro areas then, so to say. Here the M4 with 1.86 m or 6'1". Still leaves me some headroom, it's no problem. And here the sporty interior. Again, the standard setup is here, which would be normal option for a normal 4 Series. Left 12.3 inch, right side 10.25 inch with the latest BMW operating system, which then also now features Android Auto support next to the Apple CarPlay support, both wireless. Soon more details to each screens. Then again, left side with the steering wheel again. You've seen it with the shifting pedals and the M buttons. Usually I would set it in a way that the M button is, let's say, a little bit more extreme than like with DSC off, for example. And then the M2 could be like the sportiest setting overall, which sets everything to this, but you can individualize it. Heated steering wheel is also available. Next to that, the left part is rather for the cruise control, because you can also get all the assistance systems here, a blind spot monitor here also for M4 and so on. And the right side for the volume change, picking music titles and activating voice control. You can also use this Hello BMW, for example, and then have driving to the Nürburgring racetrack, or I can also show that with increasing the temperature, set temperature to 22 degrees, that's all possible. Digital instruments, you can see the digital speed right there on the left side. Right side then, for example, you change when you get to the M2 mode, for example, and you can also, or M1 mode, and you can see actually what's happening. And in the middle part, you also have some GPS information if you have a route set. This is the normal, road view, so to say. Here you can see the RPMs go counterclockwise. Some people, dislike it. I was also irritated at first, but the thing is, in this layout, then you have space in the middle part and for other stuff. And with a mode button here in the sport mode, when the driver assistance systems are also drawn back, you can see you have the special gauge here with different RPMs left and right side and the bigger digital speed on the inside. Now to rear seating. And you can see here in the rear, you also have this blue design. You don't have to go for that one, so the alternative colors would be, no matter if you have the carbon fiber seat or not. So next to this blue, there's gray, black, or orange also available. And let me get inside. Let's see. So both cars, M4 and M3, share the same wheelbase. And of course, you're a little bit caged in then here in this two-door coupe. Headroom-wise, I do fit in here, yes. When I have my spine relaxed, when I put it up, then I do hit the ceiling here with my head. But other than that, it's fairly comfortable here. Of course, the bench is also rather short. Legroom-wise, let's see. The seat should be getting back in the position it was. Yet, indeed. Legroom-wise, it's no problem. Actually, in this case, the performance seat is also, bettering the result a little bit more because it's a slim one. Then again, when you hit it with your knees, it won't be that comfortable. Let's take a look at the boot. Here also with the electric opening, 440 liters. And of course, actually quite reasonable to use, although it's not an estate, obviously. And I can also give you some measurements. So the width right here, it's almost a meter, a little bit less. The length is also almost a meter, a little bit less. And the height right here is about 50 centimeters. So, I mean, it's of course not a huge carrier, but you can also flip the seats. You have to unlock them from here and then either push it through with your luggage or then go around. But in this case, maybe I just use the stick here. Yeah, that's the easiest solution right here. And for that, we need to push the front seat a little bit further. So that's live on Autogefuel. And then you can also see the maximum setup here for today. Well, the M3 is about 4 centimeters or 2 inches higher than the M4, so you also have a little bit more headroom. However, here we also have the difference now, the bucket seat versus the normal sport seat. And this is more voluminous, the bolstering is softer and so on. And there's a really massive difference. You sit way higher in this vehicle, but that's also mainly because of the seat. Because in the bucket seat, you sit very, very low. It's more like, where am I? Even as a tall person. Here you sit definitely higher. Headroom than here, normal sport seat in the M3, still a little bit more. So let's say the highest headroom clearance you would have in the M3 with the bucket seat, and the least headroom clearance in the M4 with this seat. But still, it will be sufficient then also for tall people. Just to show you that the interior is basically the same, M3 and M4. This here again the M3. And the only thing we didn't show you before is here, for example, the map view, which is quite responsive and also delivers a good overview. And we felt that the GPS routings so far with BMW GPS systems were always top-notch. Here we go. And that's the legroom we have here, but you can also see, again, same wheelbase, and the bucket seat does have more or does offer more legroom then. So this could be then an argument again for the bucket seat. So I'm really thinking, so we have to test it on a long term, which seat is more comfortable, because the first impression is then here, yeah, it's a little bit softer and so on, but sometimes it's a little bit different when you drive for a longer period of time. Then again, you sit lower with these bucket seats, but then again, you can pump it up a little bit. Yeah, I think we'll talk more about it in the driving part. Here now, main difference, once again, headroom. It's not too plentiful, but still works here. Will be better in a touring, but of course no M3 touring announced yet. So as for the trunk, here in the M3, 480 liters instead of 440 liters with the Coupe. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new BMW M4 Coupe and also the comparison to the BMW M3. Well, we have been concentrating a little bit more on the M4 here today because it is sold more worldwide than the M3. Reason for that is basically that if you go for this top sporty model, probably the practicability with also the access to the rear seat is not the most important thing for you. However, you can actually choose, and BMW really wanted to make sure that both drive the very same way, although the M3 is a little bit higher. Of course, we will find out ourselves at a later stage when we take both of these cars out on the road and also probably on the racetrack. It's more really a design decision. Here, of course, the 4 Series is more dramatic as for the design. However, as the M3 also gets this new very dramatic front grille, the differentiation is in this case then, as for the front, not as big as for the normal 3 Series versus the 4 Series. As I said earlier, the very front part here, same for both vehicles. Not only the front grille, but the whole front part, up to the beginning of the A-pillar. Very interesting, definitely. I think it's also good to reduce the complexity, just to offer one suspension and one exhaust, that configuring this car is also not such a hassle. But then for individualization, you can still pick a lot of different colors, and you can see they also wanted to offer really screaming out colors. Interior with a good processing and so on, good build quality, and also the comfort for the forms and so on, and the spaces offered is actually quite okay. Big flaw is definitely that the seats are not racy, because for sporty seats, even if you leave the ethics aside for humans, animals and environmental impact, even just for practical and sporty racing reasons, you need fabric and or Alcantara seats especially on this very, very sporty car. Then, driving-wise, we can expect definitely a lot of performance, and I think it's also a good choice that you can still go for a manual gearbox, because there will be, purist fans who still want to have that. And all-wheel drive then, if you also want to drive it maybe in wet conditions. But again, you can pick, if you go for one of these three versions, manual, then the rear-wheel drive automatic, or the all-wheel drive automatic. Manual, of course, rear-wheel driven only. So, what do you think about the M4 and the M3? Tell us in the comments, which one would you actually go for? Here the coupe, or for the four-door sedan, and tell us why. And I'll also see you at one of our next episodes, or maybe compare it to the 4 Series M Performance model, or check out some of our 3 Series reviews. We've already been on the racetrack with some of the less horsepower models. Also been a lot of fun. So, thanks again for tuning in today. See you next time.